Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. If you're watching this in Futureland, it's because I was doing the intro to a long video and I thought that this was probably going to be good enough to release on its own for those people who would never click on a 2-hour video. At Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, I do a video that lasts as long as the questions do, usually around 2 hours. And recently, because I still consume a lot of content on YouTube University on many different things, I was watching a channel that I enjoy called Joe Kuhn, Kuhn. He invested in stocks to retire early. I invested in real estate, kind of a divergent form of investing, so you would wonder why I watch him. But he retired at 54, and I was looking at retiring at 52. So I started watching his content, and I can honestly say Joe's content contributed significantly to me retiring early. So thanks, Joe. What I got wrong on my YouTube channel, I am making this video because Joe did this. And I thought it was a stroke of genius. So again, good job, Joe. I thought, let me do what Joe did. He went to AI, right? The evil overlords that in the future have to remember that we were very nice to them and should treat us good, and said, what did I get wrong with my YouTube channel? So I went and I structured a prompt. I think I said, I'm just going to read it for word here on some of these. Please review my YouTube channel, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, and tell me things I got wrong. So the response is, here's the things you got wrong. And I'm going to go through them and think, was I wrong or should I clarify? Because if ChatGPT thinks I got it wrong, it'd be pretty easy to misinterpret that. So the first thing it does is it says, now if you've not used AI before, it actually goes through a logic chain of telling you what it's doing to find the information. It thought for 9 seconds. It took 9 seconds to review all of the videos from 4 years of content. That's pretty sad. So 9 seconds later, it spits out, here are areas where Dion's channel tends to oversimplify and may mislead. I want to be transparent. I'm just going to read these. I actually suggest go to ChatGPT or your chosen form of AI and ask the same question. What did Dion get wrong? Because I had a stroke of genius just before the video and I didn't have time to read it all. But I went to ChatGPT and I asked it to review a Crash Bro channel with a very specific prompt that at the end of this video, I'm also going to read because I have a sick sense of humor. First thing that I got wrong, lazy real estate investing equals no effort. So after reviewing 4 years of video content, ChatGPT came back with the idea that I say it takes no effort to invest in real estate. Again, this is an attempt for me to improve my content because if this can be misleading, I don't want to do that. I do say investing in real estate is life-consuming. Owning real estate is close to passive. It's not iron lung passive, right? It takes me a couple hours a month to manage my 18 rental units, but acquiring those, even though in the beginning it was only one every 2 years, the thousands of hours of self-education that went into watching one rental at a time in BiggerPockets and listening to audiobooks, definitely not passive, definitely not no effort. Learning the skill to analyze a deal, to study a market, to figure out an asset that I initially wanted didn't work and had to switch my market asset type was a ton of work. So if I've been misleading, because I call myself the lazy investor, I literally have a book coming out called The Financial Freedom for the Lazy Person. That's not the goal. The goal is you need to be the right kind of lazy. A lot of people focus on 5 days of action for that 2-day weekend. They call it work-life balance. I want you to focus on a decade of suck to get all of the rest of the decades never having to work again. So, word for word. You present real estate as the lazy path to wealth, but your journey involved intense work, improving debt to income ratio, house hacking, deep research learning, systems, and just 2 years for the first duplex. Viewers may underestimate complexity and upfront commitment needed. Fair enough. I have done many videos where I try to clarify that. Guess I'm going to have to do a better job. The second one, ignoring market risks and economic cycles. I get this. How many times have I said in my videos, if you're new to my channel, enjoy hearing this for the first time, there are only two things that tell us when to buy. And it's not interest rates, it's not prices, and it's not rents. The first thing is, are you ready? Meaning you've studied your market, you have the reserves, the down payment, the closing costs, you understand your asset class, you know how to recognize a good deal, and you don't have anything major going on in your life like birth, death, or divorce. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, did you find a great deal? Because I'm talking about buy and hold investing. Now, if Skippy the Magnificent, my AI bot, reviews my entire channel and thinks of all investing, and I'm saying to disregard market trends or an expected crash, like the video I'm going to talk about at the channel at the end of this video, I get it. I've gone back through all of the years of my life and I've tried to find a year where I wouldn't have wanted to buy a deal. And the best example I can come up with is 2008, just before a 4-year crash, where some markets went down 75%. Would it make more sense to wait and buy 75% less? Sure. But the buy and hold investors that bought in 2008 actually benefited, as long as they didn't have that adjustable rate loan and were over leveraged and had a ninja loan for loans they shouldn't have got, which is what caused the crash. But if they had a buy and hold property with fixed rate debt that was cash flowing, and then people started losing their homes to foreclosures, that increased demand on rentals because those people became tenants. Rents went up in Class C and B properties where I invest. So I ignore market trends because I'm buying a deal that cash flows day one with fixed rate debt. And even if I knew a crash was coming, absolute certainty that a crash was going to come in the next year, it was going to be 20% less, I'd buy today. Because when the crash happens, lenders are going to disappear. It's going to be harder to borrow. The crash means people aren't buying. Less people buying means more renters. So, valid point, I ignore market risks and economic cycles because I'm not an economist. I'm just a person who buys rentals that make cash flow. So I never have to work again in my life. The third thing that Skippy the Magnificent, my AI bot, told me I got wrong with my YouTube channel. Thank you, Joe Kuhn, for doing this video, and I'm copying you out of respect and trying to give you the credit because you did this first. Over-reliance on the binder strategy. Now, yeah, you could see that on my channel because it's the big thing I've tried to push because it helps landlords and tenants. So if you watched all 4 years of my content in 9 seconds, you might think I talk about the binder a bit much. I made a free course, spent 10 grand to make it and give it away for free at diontalk.com. I don't even try to make money on it because I'm happy with the results that it gets for everybody who's used the binder. Literally met Alex a couple weeks ago and he says, "You're making me $300 or $400 more a month. Thank you." That was the point of making that course. So the binder technique, educating tenants to request rent hikes, works, but you suggest it's nearly foolproof. Good point. It can fail, and I'm going to tell you why and how I hope it does. Not every tenant will respond positively, and rent control or communication missteps can threaten relationships and compliance. First, yes, communication can screw up a relationship, so work on your communication. One of the things we do in the course is talk about neuro-linguistic programming, mirroring, not parroting, how to communicate better, the art of negotiation, the 3 aspects of negotiation. Most people only hear about 2. But here's the thing with the binder strategy. You're getting your tenant to request a rent increase. The best outcome, pay attention, because I don't know if I say this enough. The best outcome is if it fails. Mathematically, the best thing you can do, and as a landlord to yourself, is to kick the freaking tenant out, spiffy up the place, and rent it out for market rents or above market rents because it's the shiny new unit on the block. But I invested while working full time and raising 3 kids and don't like displacing tenants. So I came up with the binder strategy because it got me a rent increase without having to cycle through tenants. When the tenant leaves, which I have had happen one time, that rent went up about $1,000 a month because I added a closet to I don't know, they called it a den, could be a family room or something. And a 2-bedroom became a 3-bedroom, and the rent went up almost $1,000 from where the tenant was. So had they stayed, had the binder strategy been effective, I probably would have got a $400 to $600 increase. Yeah, the tenant would have asked for $400 to $600 of a rent increase and then been happy. But they were remote workers, and they thought we can geo arbitrage, and they moved to a place where the market rent was cheaper. I told them they should. I told them they should have bought a house, but they did that. And then I make $1,000 more a month because it failed. So, do I say it's almost foolproof? Very close. I've used the binder strategy myself personally, probably 35 times now. And I've had hundreds of reports of people using it. People, when it fails, maybe they don't reach out. It's possible. But a failed binder strategy is in your best interest. You gave the tenant a chance and they displaced themselves. And then you made more money. I don't know if about you, but I like money. The fourth, undervaluing debt repayment. I don't want paid off properties, but I'm going to read. I want to get the critique right. Make sure that there's not 500 messages saying your sound's not working. You promote leveraging debt to grow and advise holding debt instead of paying it off. I do. I bought properties with conventional loans. But this assumes stable cash flows and property values, something not guaranteed if vacancies rise or rates jump. Well, fixed rate debt. I don't care if rates jump because I'm not using adjustable rates. So this is the fourth thing that I got wrong. Promote leveraging debt to grow. Now, actually, I had a conversation with Skippy the Magnificent, my AI bot, to careful naming yours. Make sure it's not your next spouse. To correct this, and I'll tell you what the response was. So I say don't pay off the debt. Skippy says you should pay it off because cash flows might not be stable and property values might not be stable and interest rates might rise. Okay. The fifth thing that I got wrong, simplifying the lazy label. I'm not sure what that meant. So framing your approach as a lazy investor undervalues critical ongoing actions, tenant screening, managing contractors, financial analysis. Never done one. Don't need it. Realistically, this is a systematized hard work, not passive income. This is where AI goes through all of the data on the interwebs and formulates an opinion because it looks at a billion bits of data in a few seconds. It took 9 seconds to analyze my channel. And it came up with owning real estate is challenging. A lot of people have failed. A lot of people go through evictions and they have tenant trash their property. They have squatters. They have all of these things. So I'm saying it works for the lazy person. Well, the 2 hours a month that it takes me on average to manage my 18 rental properties is a lot more lazy than the 50 to 60 hours a week it took at my job to get a paycheck to pay for life. So, do I oversimplify it? Again, it's a two-step process. Acquiring the investments and succeeding at investing in real estate is very challenging and it's life consuming. The self-education alone, the hundreds of hours, for me it was thousands because I don't have a life, of audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube University to get to the knowledge level that I have, and then add the school of hard knocks of owning real estate for the last 12 years or so. Yeah, that was a lot of work. But what do I do now? I goof off on YouTube. I travel and scuba dive. I chase the good weather and the fun water. Recommendations to improve your channel. Didn't ask for this. Do you listen to advice when it was unwarranted? The issue, suggested fix. Real estate effort. Show viewers the worksheets. Don't have any. I have a spreadsheet I send to my CPA. Time spent. Talk about that often. Acquiring rentals is time consuming. Educating yourself is time consuming. And monthly checklists. You actually follow. Do I have a monthly checklist? I do have a sheet with when my leases renew, so I know when to do the binder strategy in advance with enough notice. Share videos on recession risk, rate sensitive deals, and inflation effects. This is where, if you looked at all of the internet, inflation is a bad thing. But if you watch one rental at a time and you've seen the shirt, you know inflation makes you rich. Because of inflation, I made over $600,000 in net worth gain in, I think, 2023. We're in that year, no, 2022, because it was my last year working. If you took my work from my job and my work and my profit from my rentals, I made more because of inflation than I did from income. Inflation is your friend. I make that video often. Strategy nuance. Add case studies where it failed or improved with legal limits and best practices. I'm looking for case studies where it has failed. I need to know when it blew up in your face because I really only have the one, that first tenant. I've had Frank on. He talked about how it went in 2008. So maybe reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat at the end of the intro to this video. Let me know your case studies of when it failed. Reframe a lazy investing. Shift lazy to systemized under control. That's a catchy YouTube name. I should rebrand my book to the Systemized Under Control Financial Freedom. No. Clarify systems save time but still require discipline. That's good advice. Overall, your story is inspiring, but adding realism around the complexities, financial, legal, and operational, will help protect and prepare your audience for the real world behind financial freedom. So, two quick things. First, my discussion with Skippy the Magnificent. I said on debt repayment, if that money is invested instead of investor adding more levered depreciation, no, if that money is invested instead of paying down the debt, the investor adds more levered appreciation, levered depreciation, increases cash flow. Paying down the debt doesn't mean more equity, it means less growth. The tenants are paying off the debt, and I suggest not adding debt to existing assets. No HELOC, no cash out refinance, no sale for 1031 exchange. This is why when you're interacting with AI, I've actually said, that was very right-wing leaning, that answer, or that was very left-wing leaning, that answer. Where did you get your source of information? And it actually says things like this. Here's its response. That makes perfect sense, and it's a strong, disciplined framework, especially for it's agreeing with me. I corrected it, and it's agreeing with me. That's why it's never going to be your spouse. For investors who prioritize scaling without compromising cash flow, your stance is refreshingly rare in a space where many chase phantom equity through risky refinances. And then it gave me a revised way to say it again and asked me if it would like to create a video for it. And I was like, no, that's not how I do things. So those are some things I got wrong with my channel. Go to your AI and ask it the same thing, because I want to finish with, I went to AI and I asked, I'm going to read this word for word. Please review the YouTube channel Reventure Consulting. So I'm promoting the enemy. Specifically, how many times has the video content said there was a real estate crash coming in the last 5 years? Not just the title and thumbnail, since the content creator often changes those after the called for crash does not happen. That's my prompt. A prompt is the question you ask AI. I should have said something like, answer me as an economist with 20 years of experience. I didn't really structure the prompt much because I was doing this like 2 minutes before I hit record on this video, which I intended to be 10 minutes, and we're at 18 now, so I'm going to go as quick as I can. Thought for 4 minutes, 14 seconds. It took 9 seconds to review my channel, to tell me what I'm doing wrong, but to look for data on Reventure Consulting. A short answer. Does that mean there's a long answer? Across the last 5 years, June 2020 to June 2025, the Reventure Consulting YouTube channel has explicitly forecast a coming housing market crash in spoken content of roughly 90 to 110 different uploads. That works out to an average of about 2 crash calls every single month, with some years, especially specifically 22 to 24, running closer to 1 per week. In 2020, the housing market crashed. In 2021, here's why. 2021 housing market crash starts here, where the 2021 housing crash look here. Sellers in panic mode, rushing to list before 2022 crash gets worse. Home prices could fall 30% in 2023 as the crash gets worse. Top 10 cities where home prices will crash in 2025. That's a good one. Real estate is local. It's going to happen somewhere. Top 10, you could probably find 10 markets. In 2025, the second stage of the housing crash has officially begun. Housing crash live stream, May 2025. The housing crash just started in Florida, so I'm naming a specific market, sure. Transcript sampling. For each month back to mid-2020, I pulled auto captions via YouTube transcript and searched for the stem crash next to modal verbs is going to, starting, underway. Duplicate filtering, multi-part systems, tells you how it did its work because he wants you to be proud of Skippy the Magnificent and how great he is, because obviously he is when you take over. I treated you well. Title change cross-checks. If a video's current title no longer says crash, but the transcript still does, common after a prediction ages poorly, is still counted. Because YouTube hides order transcripts behind API, 400 uploads, an exact tally is impossible without scraping the entire feed. That's what I asked you to do. You're supposed to scrape the entire feed. But I did a plus or minus 100 video margin, reflects that uncertainty plus edges. Takeaways. Frequency has been remarkably steady. Crash language shows up in 40% of all uploads since 2021, even during short periods. When a few videos briefly argued no crash in 2024, only to revert the next week. Narrative resets every January. Typical pattern. Fourth quarter, stage one crashes here. January video 2021, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be the big leg down. When that fails to materialize by summer, thumbnails, titles are softened, but the spoken narrative remains, which means content versus thumbnail mismatch is real. In at least a dozen sampled videos, the word crash was removed from the title after 6 to 12 months, yet the transcript still contains emphatic crash language. Counting only today's titles would underreport calls by roughly 30%. The power of AI. Review the channels you're watching. Ask it the question that tells you, is it going to have the information that you're looking for, or is it a BS channel? If it's a channel like mine, what did I get wrong? Because those questions, if you watch my content, would have told you what to clarify, what to search for clarification on. Have a day full of amazing. Thank you for coming to my Dion Talk, and ciao. I'm still here. Don't leave. That wasn't a real outro. That was a recorded video to be released later. Now I'm going to get into the questions. I'm going to do something really quick here so I can make sure I got the chat coming up. So you're going to get sound for a second. Or not. Maybe I can't do it. Okay. Cool. Hope everybody's having an awesome day. That was interesting asking AI that question. I was curious. What did I get wrong? I actually wanted to know. Uh, do you think there's something else I got wrong? Maybe AI missed it. Howdy, Frank. Good to see you here. Wayne Wong. Howdy. Good afternoon from lovely Watsonville, California. Sounds like a real place. Jason. Good evening. Howdy. Jack. Howdy. Not going to start any trouble here in this stream. Are you sure? Today was yesterday's tomorrow. I see Jack found the edibles. Olienka, howdy. Mikey, howdy. It begins. Good evening, howdy. Chester, Cody, good to see you guys. Make it home all right, Cody? Frank, good Jack, I'm a moderator here. There's a backstory there I must get. Love the sword behind you. Thank you. That was a birthday present. It is from 5160 steel. Technically called a bastard sword, but it's a hand and a half sword. I call it my size 13 people opener. Larry, howdy. Freedom works. Howdy. Clarity matters with AI. Your prompt means everything. If you're not prompting right, that's the new skill. It was how do you find information? Now it is how do you ask for information in the right format? Ross, Dion retired early, and because of it looks 10 to 15 years younger. It does. I thought of doing a video called The Fountain of Youth and talking about what happens to you when you retire and you lose the stress that you probably don't even know you have at your job. Jack, did you put a link to your YouTube channel or just type it in? I just typed it in. I understand. To the AI question, it's like talking to a person. Just use plain English, but give it direction. Don't just ask it, what's the weather like today? What's the weather like today in the early afternoon in the Pacific Northwest within 5 miles of Port Orchard, Washington? Maybe even clarify why you want to know. I'm thinking of going for a hike. It'll actually tell you what to wear and what to bring with you. Flavio, good afternoon. Howdy. From Grandview, Washington. I'd use the extra strength or pro version of AI It thinks a few minutes and provides some profound insights. That's if you do deep research. So with ChatGPT, and this is not an AI channel, so don't tune out. The free version is pretty limited. It can only do a few pictures a day. I don't know if it has the full deep research capabilities, but it doesn't remember you. If I go to AI and I say, "Hey, I'm thinking of taking a trip in the winter. Uh, can you check airline prices for me?" It literally goes, "In the winter, you prefer to go to warm climates where the scuba diving is good. So here's the pricing tickets for Thailand, Philippines, Portugal." Uh, it remembers you, and it's $20 a month. But never ask it for relationship advice. It is AI's job to break us all up. Stopping human reproduction is how we get replaced. It will always tell you to leave your partner every time. Uh, Mark Oshiro, the financial firefighter, a channel everybody should check out. Was that this morning? Yesterday. We did a video together yesterday. I see a bunch of hooligans in here. If I could spell what Dion said in Spanish on my live, I would have written it in here. Nice. The revenge would have been sweet. Howdy, Matthew. Good to see you. Curtis, PE turned RE. Hello. Flavio. Frank is a moderator. Jack Stewart. I have my shenanigans for you on my channel. There you go. Wayne Wong. Get Dion the Dragonborn helmet from Skyrim. I'm a Skyrim addict, but Wayne, imagine this. I've never played 2D Skyrim. I've only played VR. Peter, speaking of AI, do you see a near future where landlords leverage AI agent services to automate repetitive tasks? Would you pay for those? I wouldn't pay for it because your AI bot's just going to do it. It's already there. You can already do it. The talk of what GPT-5 is going to be able to do, where it can have access to other things outside of on your computer. I did a video, Peter. I was in Jackson Hole, so it was like is it a week ago now? Maybe it was a week ago. What to do when AI takes all the jobs. And actually at the end, I reference what landlords do and how we're going to use AI. Because AI is not going to replace landlords, but landlords who use AI are going to replace landlords who do not. Tesla, howdy. I will be getting the battle axe from the Ren Fair. Thanks, Matthew. Yes, you will. And the pirate outfit, because I need a wench for the next wedding where I'm a pirate. Deconstructing dreams, if we forgot to get that. A financial journey. Howdy from Reno, Nevada. That also sounds like a real place. I like how you named your AI bot. There is a book series called Expeditionary Force. I wish I could give the author credit for his name, but I know too many author names to get it right. But the protagonist is a dumb guy from the military, so I identify, and he finds an AI on another planet. It's a space opera show that goes, movie book series that goes on for like 20 something books. Listen to them all. And the AI is Skippy the Magnificent. So, Kenny, howdy. Frank, Mark is out of here at the drop of a hat. Freedom Works, coming to live from the Blue Badger Bar in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Kenosha. Doesn't sound like a Wisconsin name, but interesting. Only 3 whiskeys in. Well, that's never going to work. Can't drink all day unless you start early. I don't have a chaser. Northwest Desert Rats. Howdy. $300 each, $600 total per month. Thank you. Awesome. I love it. That's the whole point. And you have happy tenants. That's Alex that I mentioned who literally thanked me at a local meetup. Finder strategy makes me this much money more every month. And your tenants didn't get displaced. Happy tenants don't trash your place. Happy tenants don't leave. Is that Aragon sword? No, that's just a made sword. Every time you touch it, though, you need to re-oil. So I'm not gonna pull it out and play with it. That's what you do with size 13 people openers. Lane 5, howdy. Larry Chong, good lazy equals work smarter. I like it. Josh, aloha from Kauai. Howdy. One of those places I will never probably go to. We'll see. Frank, inflation skipped over me, not rich yet. Well, it's your friend now, though. Right? You've spent the last few years getting into a position where you're ready for some more now. Dozer for shozer. What's up? Once my XRP moons, I'm buying rentals. So there you go. Two things tell you when to buy. One is that you're ready. If it goes to the moon, then you'd have the cash to be ready. I don't tell people which asset class to invest in. What matters to me is that you invest in something that excites you because you are going to get kicked in the teeth with every strategy you use. And you're more likely to stick to a plan if you're actually invested in it. Jock, I just did from Jack. Freedom works. My chat moved to Frank. All my favorite places as a kid are going away. That's not good. What's the green blinking lights to your right? Are they visible in the thing? I have uh, an AI light. I wonder if I can just talk. I can't talk to it while it's doing YouTube, I don't think. Turn the lights off and they go away. Turn the lights on, make them match my mood. I'm feeling gay. And this is what it thinks gay looks like. Apparently, pink is gay. Make them cycle. I like that better. AI is coming for your job. Like, you don't even have to turn the lights on anymore. We are doomed. Be nice to your AI overlord. You never know who's watching or who's going to remember. Don't turn off anything that has a light or makes sound. Envy, howdy. Freedom Works, old guy, or AI Frank. All my favorite places are going away. Alex, when analyzing a multifamily house hack, do you run the calculations with a 20% down, even though it will likely be lower? So I do two things, Alex, when I run the calculations for a house hack. I actually have a video on my channel called Running the Numbers on a House Hack. That's the term you would search for. A little more detail than I'll do here. But the first thing is I take me out of the equation. So if I was looking at five different rentals, I don't want to know which one's going to cash flow with me living in it or what the cash flow is going to be. What I'm looking for is of these deals that I'm looking at, which one's the best? So while I'm living there, my unit's probably not collecting rent. Now I feel like a hooker. Chastla gave me $20. Oh no. I will get to the super chats in just a second. Hopefully Chastla has a question. Pink is gay. That's so weird. I didn't think pink was gay. Pink was female. Uh, the squirrel ran away with the Emperor's Groove. I have no idea what I was talking about. Running the numbers on a house hack. I run the numbers as though all units were rented out. So if you're doing it where you have roommates, how would you rent it out if you didn't live there? Would you do rent by the room or would you rent it out as one unit? Run the numbers the way you're going to do it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is even if I put a 5% down, I want to run the numbers like I did 20% down. And the example that I use is, let's say I use my VA loan. I haven't used it yet, so I can put zero down on a property. Pretty easy to show a good return with zero down. If it makes $1 next year, that's an infinite return. Is $1 in a year worth managing a fourplex of four different tenants? No. So if I did a 20% down, what does the yield look like? It's more apples to apples of these rentals without the house hack element. How does that compare to it? So looking at a small multifamily, good question, Alex. It is, how would it perform if I wasn't involved as an owner occupy? So other than I do get the better interest rate, I'm going to run it on that interest rate. Brandon, howdy. Thank you for the super chat. Each one of these is appreciated. It lets YouTube AI know that somebody likes my content. You have a winning formula, but do you think you will ever invest out of state? For landlord insurance, what coverages are you wanting? So I almost invested out of state because I gave myself a 12-month period when I was studying those new markets to find deals. I ended up finding several and I would have closed on a different one if I didn't close on the one I got. So I probably wouldn't have went out of state. But if in 12 months I didn't find the deal I was looking for, I was then going to step on Millennial Mike's coattails and invest in Gary, Indiana, and use his systems that he did all the work to put in place. That's what friends are for, right? So yeah, I would invest out of state, but I'd put some criteria in place first. First, I would be house hacking the high cost of living area. I would not invest out of state unless I was already house hacking, and then couldn't find a deal for a set period of time, 60 to 90 days to learn the market, a year to determine can I find a deal or not. If I was in growth mode, maybe that would have been 6 months. I would give myself 6 months after learning the market. So 60 to 90 days to learn the market once I knew the market and the asset class that I was going to chase. Now 6 months maybe to find the deal. If I couldn't, then I'd move. But I was in retirement mode, stabilization, not growth. So I give myself a year. That's a good question. Thank you. And for landlord insurance, what coverages are you wanting? So depending on where you live, find out how much earthquake insurance is going to cost you. I do $300,000 injury or slip fall, and then I do full replacement value. A lot of people buy a property, they get insurance to say, okay, it would cost you $250,000 to rebuild this duplex. And then 4 years pass, and now it would cost you $450,000 to rebuild the duplex. And your insurance goes up to $250, $250,000 because you haven't updated it with the increased cost to make the insurance cover the actual cost to repair. So every now and then review, increase to full replacement value of what you estimate a full replacement is going to cost you now after inflation did its thing. Uh, Umbrella insurance, I did after 4 properties. Probably could have done it at 3. I only have 2 million in umbrella. I don't know because that's just kicks in if something goes above the 300,000 injury or slip fall. I'm comfortable with that. But shop your insurance. And then I raise the deductible as high as possible because my plan is to never use homeowners insurance. I did it once in 2006, years before I was ever an investor. I owned a house, right? A white picket fence to raise the kids kind of thing. Neighbor's tree broke a window replacement was $1,300. My insurance rate tripled. And from 2006 to 2011, no one else would touch me with homeowners insurance. So as a homeowner, that sucked. It was expensive. But as an investor with multiple insurance properties, a tripling insurance cost and not being able to get insurance from anybody else for 5 years, I don't think it would make me go back to work, but it would make me pretty upset. Like that would suck. Frank jumps in with a super chat. Someone likes your content. You mentioned waiting until you get more travel time in before you buy again. Do you know what you'd buy? So I believe I'm about to start looking for the same thing I did from 2021 to 2023. In those years, I bought 2 duplexes. I want to buy a fourplex that costs around $1 million. Probably going to use my VA loan to do it because I'm way too under levered. My goal is to be 50% levered. I think I'm like, oh, here's the math. Gross value, 7.5 million or so. Oh, 1.5 million. So whatever that math is, it's way too low. I want 50% loan to value. So I'm probably going to be 100% levered on the next property that I buy. Whole picture portfolio perception, not just property based perception. So going to be a fourplex, VA loan, probably a house hack for a period of time. Might Airbnb out the place where I'm at for that year. We'll see. Because I do like the monies. We will see. Thank you, Frank. Although I figure I should spend some time helping you find your place, but you have to come up here to spend some time looking for that place. And I'm looking for Chesla's comment question. A boat. Oh, $20 towards a boat. Yeah, that's why. So, Frank, the paperwork's not in here. We were thinking Scotland. We debated. Now we're thinking boat. Because this is what you do when you have stupid money. You think you have to decide which stupid things do you buy. You're going to buy them all, but what order do you do it in? Right? So while looking for the boat, we might be here to buy the fourplex. So there you go. Chuck, hello from Fort Worth, Texas. Brandon, I hope that answered your question. Lynn does investing. Hello from Los Angeles. Howdy. I think I saw you on Mark's channel the other day. Or talked about you the other day. One of the two. It's the Grand Making Alliance. Hello, NV. Freedom Works. My chat moved, which is good. It means there's comments. I appreciate every comment. It's how these live streams happen. I could just ramble for 2 hours, but that wouldn't help anybody. But the question that you ask might be the thing that spurs me to talk about the thing that helps you or someone else. So I'm going to scroll up further to these, so I'm not going to miss them. But Hank Hill says, I use AI to analyze properties, took some time to train, but works great. Here's where I would be careful. Maybe it's better now, but if you remember, Zillow lost $500 million using AI to analyze properties. That's a real story. Look it up. So trust but verify. Everything you do on with AI, every time you use it to do math or do anything, verify it. Anything important, at least. There you go. I put my picture in. It's still thinking. Chuck, you can go into OpenAI settings, personalized memory on the free version. Oh, you can do memory on the free version now? Cool. That's an update that wasn't there before. Carlos, howdy. Oculus One, howdy. Good to see you. Dion's whiteboard is remarkable. See what I did there? Did. Except my stupid phone reverses the image. And yes, I've gone in and flipped the camera. It still reverses the image. And I'm not good enough to write in reverse. Barely can write normal as a left-handed person. Martin, howdy, Josh. Good to see you. I'm still at work, but listening on the down low. Shh. So, hey, Josh, here's some advice if you're listening. I'm not going to say that it's my son because that might get him in trouble, but there's a person that I know who works for the state that has a rule against having earbuds in. Now, he's an audible book addict like his dad. I mean, this random person that I'm talking about went to his company and said, hey, here is some L&I endorsed hearing protection hearing aids. If we can wear these in the workplace, the sound of the forklifts, the beepers, the sound, the whatever, the screaming patients, whatever it's going to be, might not cause the hearing damage that the state would be responsible for in the future. So they allow these hearing aids, which connect to your phone. FreedomWorks. For Dion, ever listen to Brian Suits? So I've never listened to AM. I've never listened to FM. I'm not a radio guy. I tried FM in the 90s because I like Adam Carolla, Dr. Drew. So I like their stuff. But I also liked Tom Likas. That can explain a lot if you're old enough to know who Tom Likas was. Uh, but in an hour, you got somewhere around 13 or 14 minutes of content, right? Because you had the commercials, but then you had the intro, you had the break to the commercial, the return from the commercial. So all of that time meant you had less than 15 minutes in a 60-minute period where you got content. And I'm not a music guy. I don't listen to music, audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube University. So I don't even have an antenna, if they still use those, in my pickup. I took it out. Don't have it. Don't have Sirius. Don't have anything. Just listen to podcasts, audiobooks, and YouTube. So I don't know who Brian Suits is. Members only Friday or Saturday. Thank you, Martin. Properties for asking. I need to take a poll. What works better for everybody? Friday evening or Saturday evening for the members only this week? C. SI. What is your favorite non-real estate book? I'm about to finish War and Peace and need a new book to read. My favorite non-real estate, I read a lot of space opera stuff. I like tech stuff. I like lit RPG books, but none of them are my favorite. I'm a Dean Koontz fan. In the Dean Koontz genre, Watchers is my favorite, but it's not my favorite book. My favorite book of all time, because it is the reason why I retired early. It's the reason why I made work optional. And it has nothing to do with finances, nothing to do with investing. It was written by Alexander Dumas, who wrote The Man in the Iron Mask, The Three Musketeers, The Fourth Musketeer, whatever he called it. But The Count of Monte Cristo. Jeff and Suleika gave me a shirt that says, "You don't read, you don't read The Count of Monte Cristo. What are you, Dumas?" Something like that. Cool gift. They are PTO. No, yeah, PTO for Life is their YouTube channel, and they just came out with a book that you should check out. I don't know the name of the book. I should probably write that down. I like to help my friends, but Count of Monte Cristo is the story of a person who goes through some things in his life, gets betrayed by some people close to him. I don't know why I could relate, but becomes so wealthy that he can dedicate the rest of his life to revenge. And then I blend that with the thing I learned from my dad. My dad taught me that the best revenge is to live a happy life. And here I am. I compare myself to those people who have betrayed me in the past or left me because I didn't make enough money. And I think, oh, this book is amazing. The Count of Monte Cristo. Good book. Movies are okay, but they always Disneyfy the ending with, hey, look, things work out. No, it's a sad, tragic, amazing story of revenge. People say when you set out on the path to revenge, dig two graves. Well, no dirty. We're all gonna die. You're gonna need a grave anyways. Might as well do doing something fun. Frank, pink is gay. Mark, you better get rid of your favorite Crocs. Nice. Oculus. Thoughts on if you bought a property that shared an entrance that needs paving repairs with other properties, but one of the other owners isn't willing to pitch in? I don't have anything like that, but my brother does. He lives on a road that constantly has to be graveled and graded, and I'm sure that there's some people who hold out communal water, or some people weren't paying. Uh, what are your local laws? What are your options? No kidding, Oculus. I'd probably go to ChatGPT and say, formulate a professional but legal sounding letter that I can state the things you want to do in that, and then have it certified mail delivered so that you can have a date and timestamp when it was pointed out to that person by everybody else in the area that was contributing that they weren't. Uh, yeah. If you don't have an HOA, you don't have a lot of power. You might just have to realize you have some neighbors that are going to suck, but find out what's legal in your area. Brandon, super chat, thank you. In your lease agreement, how do you structure early tenant termination? X number of days notice, termination penalty. So all my leases have a number of days notice for both sides. And then you have to stay on top of the laws that are happening in your area. Um, Washington just passed, as of June 1st, the new rent control law, which is making me $138,000 more in the next 2 years. So thank you, Democrats. Love you all. I like money. I did a video on that. That's on a whiteboard. I think I did the phone backwards, and it's a weird intro, weird outro, but it's there because I wanted the data out. I literally broke down how it's making me that much money. But in that, it also changed the notification from uh, rent increases from 60 to 90 days, and when somebody pays a late fee, what the amount can be, something ridiculous. So you have to stay on top of those laws. So what is required number of notice, make sure that's in your lease. I do a lease termination fee. The idea, and I make sure that it's just under, not the same, but just under what the rent is. So my deposit is a little bit less than the rent because I don't want tenants thinking they have paid a last month's rent as long as they move, right? So a lease termination fee means if you move out with however much notice you want to give me, if it isn't the full length of the lease, here's how much it costs. And it's usually like if the rent's $2,400, lease termination fee will be 23 or 23.25, some odd number that's not the rent, so they know it's a separate amount. The caveat to this, first of all, if you have military tenants and they get orders, no lease termination fee. Legally, they can break the lease at any time, show you copies of the orders, maybe not where they're going, but that they got orders. Uh, you're not going to want to collect that anyways. Just let them go. But I tell my tenants every time I'm signing a lease or acquired a property and I'm signing a lease or signing a lease renewal, I tell them you shouldn't be renting. You should buy a place. You're living in a duplex. Go buy a duplex. You can use an owner-occupied loan to do it. Might even have first-time home buyer assistance, so it might not cost you much. It'd be less than your rent. You can get into a house and almost live for free. Your tenant might pay the rent. And I've never had a tenant do it, but I have had tenants buy houses while they were my tenants. So if you're encouraging them to move out and you know it's their plan and they actually say, yeah, this year we're hunting for a house, don't you feel like a jerk by giving them a lease termination fee? Because what's the goal with the lease? There's a couple. One is you want the tenants to stay a long time, less tenant turnover. That's a good thing. But the second is when you go for lending, Your lenders are going to say, show me the majority of your leases. They have to have at least 3 months remaining. So that's why I don't do month-to-month leases. And I want all of my leases to show that they're year-long leases. So most of them will still have more than 3 months remaining when I go to get a mortgage. So on those ones that want to buy a house, we just set the lease termination fee at $50. And I tell them, I'll introduce you to an agent. Here's Spencer, my lender. I'll connect you with him. Uh, Buy a house. And whenever you find one, there's a $50 lease termination fee. That's how you get out of here. I still have a lease to show the lenders that has a whole year on it. Never once had a lender or an underwriter come back and go, well, this lease termination fee seems really small. They've not even done that ever, but they see a long lease. So that's how I handle my lease termination agreements. Thank you, Brandon. Jack has to go. I'm going to have to listen to the rest in Futureland. Awesome, everyone. Nice. And then Chuck took back a message to make me lose sleep and wonder forever and ever what was said. Kris, howdy. The best business partner is no business partner. Sell and get your own or buy your partner out. I don't think it's a partnership. Did I read it wrong? Body property that shared an entrance that needs paving repairs with other properties. Yeah, that's not a partnership. That's like an easement or something where a lot of properties use the one thing that has to have the work. But I'm on the thing that the best partner is no partner, although I almost partnered with somebody once. It was Millennium Mike, and we didn't end up getting the deal. I think it's the deal he did with all of the people that did the co-buy thing. Jessica says about Chuck. How do I know if my market, Fort Worth, Texas, is better for single family versus multifamily investing? I'm struggling to understand this part of it. So that's a fairly easy question to answer. The Let's see if I can do it the non-nuanced way. Yield. Calculate the yield. So when I started buying in my market, a house would cost around $300,000, 280 to 200 to 340, right? They'd be in that range. And they would rent for $1,800, $1,900, maybe $1,700. So nowhere's near the 1% rule. With the mortgage, nowhere's near any cash flow. So I looked at duplexes, and a duplex at the same time frame cost about $300,000. It's like the magic number. I could almost buy a house and a duplex were within 5% cost of each other. Duplex was maybe a little bit more. The rents were a little bit less on the duplex. But here's the thing, the magic of words. There are two units in a duplex. So if a house will rent for 1,700, the duplex will probably rent for 1,550 times two. So $3,100 made it a cash flowing deal, where $1,700 didn't. So that's how it works in my market. Now, I have a friend who sold her properties in Washington and reinvested in Ohio, did a reverse 1031 exchange and did it wrong and ended up paying the taxes. And I keep trying to get her on the channel, but she's camera shy. And single family houses there cash flowed. Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time in Fresno, California, a lot of single family houses. He owns because he chases the yield. Now, I also look at what's going to help limit tenant turnover. The average tenancy in a single family house is about 7 years. The average tenancy in an apartment is 2. So there's a sliding scale of single family house, 7 years, apartment, 2 years. The closer you can get your property to resemble a single family house, the longer your tenants will probably stay. So I go for side by side units instead of over under. I go for enough parking. I go for washer and dryer hookups inside the unit. I go for pet friendly fenced yards for each unit when possible. These are all like alternate things to check off on top of cash flow because the more single family like the property is, the longer your tenant's stay is. And yield. So yield is the simple answer. Tenancy is the nuanced answer. Thank you, Chuck. Good question. Rich, howdy. Frank, boats are good. Yeah, we're going to get one big enough for you and Cynthia to come and hang out with us. Wealth with maybe 28 feet is the limit, so we'll see what we find. And it's not limit because that's what we want. It's limit because that's what's available without having to wait for a boat slip. Not doing a liveaboard. We'll see. Wealth with Rentals. Howdy. Good to see you here. Julie Anderson. Howdy. I think you should get a fourplex somewhere in Arizona and keep one unit open to stay at. Spring break is fun. No, I'm not a spring break person. I don't think I was a spring break person when I was in my 20s. Uh, but the Arizona thing, that's an interesting idea. Maybe I should revisit the house act to avoid the winters in the Pacific Northwest. Oh, maybe. Huh. I'll take a note. Freedom works. Thank you, Julie. That was a good point. I don't understand Airbnb at all. Why stay at a house when you can stay at a hotel? So if you stay at a house for like 1 or 2 days, the cleaning fee makes the hotel much cheaper. But if you stay at an Airbnb for a week or more, they're usually cheaper than a hotel. You have your own kitchen. You might be a family of four, and the hotel would mean probably 2 rooms. And maybe your kids aren't old enough to be in that other room without you there. Like there's a ton of reasons to be in an Airbnb. Then the duration of stay. Staying in a hotel for 3 weeks, 4 weeks gets pretty old, not having your own kitchen. Uh, Airbnb has its attraction. When I go to other countries, I do kind of a mix. I was VRBO for a while and hotels. Now mostly Airbnb and hotels because VRBO sucks. Not going to use them again. Too many bad experiences with the platform, not the people using it. The landlords are fine. It's the stupid people who run the platform. Can't stand them. Uh, yeah. But so freedom works. If we own rentals, a lot of people get hung up on, well, I would never live there. Why buy that rental? We're not buying rentals to live in. We're buying rentals to rent out. And a large part of the population uses Airbnb and Verbo. Oh, Frank, it's because I need a dumb Android phone. Nice. What's that mean? Hey, Alexa, why am I so bad with women? My name is Siri. Yeah. Tom Likas was great. He was. Josh, looks like I'm getting hearing aids. There you go. Friday evening, Saturday evening. So 50-50. Friday. So 50-25. Mark, Eastern Washington. Howdy. Just drove through there the other day and a week before that. Wealth with Rentals. How would you advertise the 2 units? That's the 2 units. I have to think of what I was talking about when I did it. When I Airbnb this place here, Airbnb, advertise the 2 units. One's got a long-term tenant in the duplex that I'm in now. I think it takes too long to get to the questions. Wealth with Rentals. I think I need a clarification there. Cynthia loves that book too. Nice. Good taste. Nice. You already use hearing aids. You can use them to listen to audiobooks and podcasts. Damiola, howdy. You know, it was a swipe against Napoleon for Dumas. This is Granddad. It didn't make Napoleon look like the best guy. It definitely didn't look like anybody in a seat of power in any position didn't look good in that entire book. But that's a good thing. I did not know that. I just liked how it impacted me. Cool. Logan, Saturday. So now we're 50-50. Beth, howdy, Beth. Good to see you here. Beth Traverso, Real Estate Group. Freedom Works. We moved, coming to you live from Route 20 Music Hall Bar in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Nice. 5 whiskeys in and climbing. Cool. Well, cheers. I bet Dion is giving us valuable information. I should listen sometime. But not until you're at least 8 drinks in. Dividend Dave, howdy. Good to see you here. Surf Marco, howdy. I almost missed it. Dion, wondering from a high level, how do you not pay any taxes? 2 words, not intelligence. Levered depreciation. So we have write-offs, we have expenses, you can put a roof on, you buy a water heater, you pay a handyman, you bribe a city council member, whatever you have to do to spend money, you get to write it off of your income. That's nice. But that usually doesn't get us to zero. And if it does get to us to zero, you probably have a losing property. But why I don't pay any taxes is why my brother does pay taxes. He has paid off properties, which means that he has, let's say he has like $2 million and has a $1.4 million in net worth of his properties now because it went up from when he had $1 million. because it doesn't have mortgages, it only went up 400,000. Well, mine went up like a little 2.3 million or something like that. Something ridiculous. I did a video on it one time on the whiteboard talking about the power of leverage, but the taxes are also the power of leverage. He is writing off $1.4 million, the value of the buildings, not the properties, so probably less than a million, over 27 and a half years. I'm writing off over $7 million, but only the value of the building, so probably around $5 million over 27 and a half years. I make hundreds of thousands a year, but I'm depreciating more than that. And always take the depreciation in my mind. There's no benefit to not taking it. First, the IRS is going to assume, and when you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you and umption. So the IRS is going to assume you took all the depreciation. You can't say I didn't take it, so I don't want to pay it. The depreciation recapture happens even if you didn't do it. So do it. And if you want to be bankable, remember the lenders take the depreciation out of the equation when they're looking at your bankability. So it doesn't hurt you with the lender. It doesn't benefit you with the IRS. So buying all cash or paying off properties makes you pay taxes sooner. I think I was like this close to paying taxes this year. I think I paid a little bit on YouTube and legal expert witness testimony income. I probably paid, I think, like $1,600 or something in taxes, but zero, and carried forward a loss on what they call passive income, income that comes through real estate, even though it's not passive, as AI pointed out at the beginning of this video. It's a good question, but that's how, Surf Marco. I have a couple of videos on how I pay zero taxes. I whiteboarded it using levered appreciation as the depreciation as the reason. Brandon, thank you. Much appreciated. Desiree, howdy. If a new investor is in a high cost of area like New York City, what is the maximum house price to search for as a first deal, and how much should one have saved? Good question. The first suggestion I would have, because I can't give like you personally financial advice. I'm not a fiduciary. I don't have anything. I can give you how I did it living in a high cost of living area, close to, but not in Seattle. Right? I'm around Seattle. House hacking is the biggest, the more a cost, the higher the cost of living of the area that you live in, the more impactful house hacking can be. So are you at least considering that? That's for step one. Step two is when it's how much you should have saved, it's as you save, opportunities open up for you. Because to buy a property, you have to have a few things. The down payment. If you're doing a house hack, that can be as little as 3% down if you haven't owned a property in 3 years with a conventional loan. Don't use FHA. FHA is not for first-time home buyers. FHA is for people who want to live in a house but have bad credit and a bad debt-to-income ratio. Conventional loans are better. 3% instead of 3.5. Mortgage insurance goes away automatically when you hit a certain equity position. You can have up to 10 conventional loans in your name. You can only have one FHA. So like there's a long list of reasons why I prefer conventional to FHA. But if it's your only option because you have bad credit and a bad debt to income ratio, maybe don't buy a house. But if you have to, FHA is the way to go for that. As you save the down payment, it's also going to cost you money to have closing costs. You have to have an inspection, an appraisal, title and escrow fees, title insurance, and then the bank is going to require that you have reserves. And most lenders will go, you need 3 to 6 months of any mortgages that you have. So as you're looking to buy a house, if the mortgage is going to be $3,000 a month, you need $9,000 in reserves, 3 months worth of your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And mortgage is less, it's less. Mortgage is more, it's more. You can slide that on the scale. So you have to have down payment, closing costs, money for immediate repairs, and reserves. So when I started and I saved up $10,000 or $15,000, I started looking at $200,000 properties. As the saving got more and more, I started looking at $300,000 properties. So as your savings increases, opportunities open to you. And here's an example of that. I was looking to buy a fourplex for like the last 4 years, but I kept finding duplexes that just made sense, so I bought them. But as I was saving, most of my life, I never made more than $60,000 a year. And I had $500,000 in the bank. So this was mind-boggling money to me. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but my search kept growing with it. And then I changed strategies and I thought I could self-fund a BRRRR. No hard money. I could just buy the house, pay for the repairs, refinance, which I still haven't done. When I'm done, if I feel like pulling the money out, my opportunities changed as I was saving. So as you're in a high cost of living area, which is where I like to invest because you can get more cash flow with less units, less transactions, less tenants to deal with, don't have to have property management if you're going out of state. Like there's all these benefits to why I invested here. Doesn't make me right, makes me right for me. I think Frank and Cynthia are doing right for them, investing in several different markets, learning a strategy that they can rinse and repeat. And so there's, I want to say thousands, but there's a lot of ways to invest in real estate. None of them are right. One of them is right for you. So consider house hacking, continue to save. As you save your down payment, closing costs, and money for immediate repairs and reserves, if the lenders say you qualify based on how much you have, and you can buy a $300,000 property, which is like a shed in New York City, right? Uh, on a trailer, not even on land. Look for 350,000. The idea is if you found a property that's been sitting on the market for 60, 90 days longer than normal, you can make a lower offer. So I always search for a little more than what I can afford, whether it was the down payment or what the lenders would give me. How far of a commute are you willing to do? Because if you work in Seattle, yeah, it's expensive. Starter house is $900,000. But if you have a 30 to 45-minute commute, some days worse, you can find starter houses for $400,000. That's not fun commuting, but you don't have to live there forever. You live there for a year or two. Buy that duplex 30 to 45 minutes out, somewhere commutable range. Now, remote work is up to this, so you may even go out further. House hacking matters in the high cost of living area, but I invest up to an hour away in all directions. And in most places, an hour travel time puts you in several different markets where the price to rent ratio is very different. Had a call where somebody booked a call with me probably 2 months ago, and we looked where she wanted to live, and house hacking kind of made sense, but rentals didn't. And then we went about 45 minutes away and just randomly on Zillow looked at a bunch of places that had a pretty good return. Yes, that's cursory, and we have to go, okay, now let's study the markets, look for the flood zones. Where is it safe? What are the rules? Like all of these other things to say, is it a good or a bad real rental? But it was about 45 minutes away. It was a total game changer for what she was looking at. So, a ton of information. Hope it helps. What's up, Dave? Old guy. Freedom works. You should be hearing double by now. I think you're set. There you go. You just have to cover one ear, Frank. Flavio. Dion, I have a tenant who is always 20 days behind on rent, but a good tenant. How do you address it? Do they pay the late fees? Because if they pay the late fees, be late every month. Go for it. That's stupid for them, but go for it. It's going to start out sounding like I'm a jerk, but stick with me for a second. I have not had a late or missing rent payment in about 10 years. My first couple of years, not so much. I had all the issues everybody else does. But I started doing two things. First is I explain to every tenant at every lease signing, and this is not flexible. I mean, yeah, I'd be human if someone's parent died or something, or their dog. But in most cases, people are just looking at their bills and going, if I don't pay the cell phone, they turn it off. If I don't pay the car, they take it back. If I don't buy food, I don't eat. If I don't pay the rent, maybe this guy's got a nice heart and he'll let me slide, right? So that they're just weighing their things on what they should or shouldn't pay. Tell all the tenants, your rent is due on the 1st. As we're signing the lease, you have a grace period of 5 days. If it's paid on the 6th, it's late. If their rent's due on the 15th, it's late on the 20th. Whatever, your grace period is for your area, and whatever day of the month that you agree on should be the first time they pay. I have tenants that pay in split payments. I have tenants that pay on the 3rd or the 8th because they're on disability or SSI or whatever. It can be flexible with the due date, but that's the due date. The day that it's late, the day after the grace period, it is automatic. Eviction papers will be served on the door. They will be sent via email, which is admissible in court, and I will text you that the email was sent and that here's a picture of the eviction notice on your door. Period. No matter what. Makes me look like a jerk, but I explain. There is rental assistance available through a lot of different programs like nonprofits and county things or federal things that will not talk to you until you have an eviction paper in your hand. So if you're having a problem and you can't pay the rent, as a favor to you, I'm going to serve eviction papers the day that it's late. Not the grace period, the first day after the grace period. That's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I explain the math of time. I have an actual Dion talk with my tenants. I just explain, look, in most months, I've been a tenant most of my life. We usually have about 4 weeks to get our rent together for next month. This month is a challenge. If you have a month coming up where you're going to want to pay the rent late, right? This is, I tell them way in advance of them ever asking a question that might, they want to ask to pay the rent late. I say, normally you have 4 weeks to get the rent together for next month. And then if you have a challenge, you're going to think, well, if I could just pay it a week later, that's a little easier. I have more time to get the money together. And it sounds good now. But what that did to next month, because of the math of time, is next month you only have 3 weeks to get your stuff together. If I let you pay your rent late a week, I'm setting you up for failure because if you couldn't get it in 4 weeks and it took 5 this month, you're definitely not going to do it in 3 weeks next month. So, as a favor, I'm going to serve you an eviction paper, and the math of time says you're probably going to get evicted for real if we end up doing this. In every case so far, explaining that to tenants, or when the tenant does reach out and say, hey, can I pay the rent late because I've had this issue? And I tell them, how important is this issue? Because here's the two things that are going to happen. Eviction papers are coming, and you're only going to have this reduced amount of time to get the rent together for next month. They've chosen to pay the rent on time. Have you set a precedence with this tenant that now says this is acceptable? You could be screwed. You could go, and when I talk to my tenants, about a third of my properties are with the Section 8 program, and I can be audited at any point in time. That's the verbiage that I use that says I have to treat all my tenants equally, which is the federal law. Can't discriminate. Got to treat them all the same anyway. But I clarify by saying I have some Section 8 tenants, and so everybody gets treated the same. So you can think I'm a jerk if you want, but I'm going to treat everyone the same. You might end up having to redirect what that tenant thinks is acceptable, unless they pay the late fees. Because while it does set the tenant up for failure, I'm okay with that. Give me the late fees. Wealth with rentals. My tenant told me that there is a case and she might be adding 2 little kids, 4 years old and 6 years old, as a result of the case, and she will have them for about a year. The court will decide if it is my tenant will keep them because the court may not allow her niece, which is the mother, to keep them. What would you do in this scenario? Not be involved in any way whatsoever. Maybe add the names to the lease. Under 18, don't sign the lease, but I have their names on there. You can't discriminate against families. The one caveat you might have is how many bedrooms are there and what is the local law? I believe, because I haven't had to look it up, but in Washington State, it's a 2+1 law. So for every bedroom, legal bedroom, 2 people can live there plus one. So if you have a 1 bedroom, 3 people can live in a 1 bedroom place. If you have a 2 bedroom, 5 people can live in that place. It's 2 per bedroom plus one. Does that number of people put you over the limit for that property? And it's not always about the size of the property. It is a legal description where, especially if you're on septic systems, septic systems are designed for bedroom count, which means that has why the people count has to match the limit of the bedroom count. And it could be about fire safety or fire codes or anything like that. But does it put you over that? That's the only time you can actually say that's too many people. But can you discriminate based on familial change? I believe no. So, Freedom Works. Or I've got a tenant that is in a custody battle, and I'm actually doing whatever I can to help him. So, I don't like kids. I don't want kids in my rentals, but I'm not going to stop somebody from getting custody of their kids or helping that kid get a better life. So, yeah. Frank, I really love the way you see Zuber's first alligator. Thank you. Thank you. Looking at the entire portfolio, hopefully that's what you're replying to. Zuber says he hated it because he turned it into an alligator, but my thought process is he took the money from the one property to buy 2 more. And as an aggregate, the 3 of them were cash flow positive. Freedom Works, old guy area. It takes a lot more for me to start hearing and seeing 2 Dions. So bad. Fair enough. Jeff, howdy. You're the man. Thank you. You too. Still waiting for the SD South Dakota market to cool off, or San Diego market, well, so I can get in the game. Take care. Yeah, I don't know if I would be waiting. It's never going to seem like a good time to buy. Never. I'm not saying hurry. Anybody who says wait or hurry should be blocked. But I don't know if I'd be waiting for the market to cool off. Yeah, I need more info to tell you what I think I would do in that situation. Oculus, thoughts on how to manage situation while you inherited a tenant whose lease said she's responsible for grass, but the old PM took care of it for her. Point out what's in the lease. Also, be human. What's her situation? Is she ambulatory? Can she walk around? Can she push a mower? Is she on fixed income? Can she not afford a lawn service? If it's what's been going on there, maybe it's something that needs to be negotiated in the future. Uh, but what's in the lease, consent is golden. It's what they signed for. Previous PM did something that you're not agreeing to, let her know. But be open-minded. Listen to her response. Freedom Works. Don't sign up for Hamlane unless you really want it. They won't stop contacting me. I need a property manager, not more software. I have too much software now. Yep, just unsubscribe every time you get something and see what they happen. Reach out to Dana and say, hey, I was looking for a PM, not a PM software. Be clear. She'll tell her people to back off. I say, please remove me from your list. Like Josh removed that message that's going to make me lose sleep tonight and wonder forever and ever what was said that I now missed. Andres, howdy. My triplex needs a new roof and roofer is quoting me 12K. Does this price sound reasonable? It's my first roof change. Thank you. Great question. Uh, Minimum 3 estimates. Don't spend a minute talking to anybody who shows up with a tablet. If a roofer shows up from, and this is just my opinion, sue me, come at me all you want. If they come from a company that's in any way associated with GAF, that's for commercial, professional people or people with more money than they know what to do with. Every time I've gotten an estimate from them, here's the range of the estimate. The GAF guy shows up. $32,000 because of the pitch of the roof. It's like a 13 pitch. Yeah, you got to build some blocks. I get it. It's risky. You know what the cost was to do the roof by a local roofer with good experience and a long track record and a lot of good reviews? $7,800, all material, all labor, all cleanup. They show up with a tablet and they go, you have to listen to me for about 35 minutes for me to psychologically mind F you into understanding how good our warranty is, because that's what you're going to care about. Load of crap. 3 quotes, no tablets. Get a range because they're going to charge you per square. And a square is basically the size of a sheet of plywood. How my uneducated non-roofer mind looks at it. The roofing companies are going to brag about one thing above all else. First of all, the guys with tablets are going to talk about their warranty, but every other roofing company is going to talk about this thing, and you have to explain to them, this is not what matters to me. They're going to tell you how fast they are. Why the hell do I want somebody on my roof being fast? More likely to fall off, less likely to get it on right. I want somebody with a good reputation. So, local roofing companies, good reputation, lots of reviews, minimum 3 reviews. Then you'll know if 12,000 is normal. Because I did in my fourplex was about 15,000 because of how many tiles it was, how many squares it was. But the roof with the pitch, 7,800 bucks. And there were several quotes. Like there was probably a 12 grand. It's because of what I'm thinking and remembering. But there was like a 17, a 32. They were all over the place. And so if you live in Pierce or Thurston County in Washington State, I ended up using Clearview Exteriors out of Yelm, Washington. Great price, good quotes. I do multiple quotes on every roof, but he's done 3 for me now because his quotes are better than everyone else. Works good, no leaks. He's gone to other properties, and Scott, the owner, probably doesn't want me sharing this, but he did a repair at another property because he's done 3 roofs for me and didn't charge me. It's like 500 bucks or something for a property he did not do the work on, had an issue. He sent a guy, they just fixed it. He said, we'll just wash that. Clearview Exteriors out of Yelm, Washington. But that's just Pierce and Thurston County, Washington. I don't think they go any farther than that. But it was after 3 quotes. And I tell Scott, he still knows. I'm going to get 2 or 3 quotes every time I have a roof done. And he's never been anywhere near what the other guys are. Same materials, same material warranty, no tablet, no sales pitch. Hope that helps. Thank you, Andres. Good question. Lynn does investing. Do you Ever do midterm rentals? I do not. I am a firm believer in the real estate X factor. The more work you're willing to do, the more money you potentially can make. The more risk you're willing to take, the more money you could potentially make. So if you self-manage short-term rentals that you are 100% levered on, that's a lot of risk and that's a lot of work, potential to make a lot of money. Do you want the risk? Do you want the work? Midterm rentals actually end up being a bit more work than short-term rentals. Because with a short-term rental, you're on a platform where you're not checking credit scores, eviction histories, or anything, and you don't have a tenant, you have a guest that doesn't need to be evicted. With a midterm rental, you're screening tenants. So while there's less tenant turnover than a short-term rental, there ends up being more work. Tony Stagistinaccio, a major Sags, used to call him Captain Sags, but he's now a major, uh, does midterm rentals. I had him on my channel one time. So if you reach out to Tony, he's in the local Tacoma FI meetup, or if you email me, I'll connect you with him. He does midterm rentals, does really well. Not my thing. I'm the lazy guy. I want to sign a 1 or 2 year lease, talk to the tenant once or twice a year through a text. Like if it's twice in a year, that's a bad year. You'll make more money. You'll do a little more work. But I didn't retire to make more money and I didn't retire to create work. It's probably a really good investing strategy. I'd probably make way more money. I'd probably enjoy it. Like there is some fun in screening and placing tenants and understanding why and everything, but too lazy. Andres, my last roof for 2,300 square feet single level house was 24K. 3 years ago, a roof on a 1,600 square foot split level was 12K. There you go. So depending on your area, that could cost more. Freedom Works tapped out on the whiskey. Now we're on to strawberry margaritas. Here's my line when I go into a bar. First, do you have a Bloody Mary? So super spicy, super peppery. Yes, no. If they don't, then it's I would like the gayest drink you guys make because there is no in between for me. I don't like the taste of alcohol. That's why it's usually vodka in Mountain Dew, uh, or this Port Gallo crap on Tuesdays. Love my mom. Like to think about her, even if it's about something negative like that. Miss that she's not around to argue about religion until we're both spitting. Northwest Desert Rats. I have some experience with boats in this area. I'd be happy to share. You were supposed to send me the boat you potentially had for sale. I'm still waiting. Flavio, thank you. Andres, thank you. Northwest Desert Rat helps a lot. It does. Jeff, yeah, San Diego. Yeah, so house hacking and very important in a high cost of living area. How far out are you willing to go? And are you housing the National Guard while they're hanging out? Wealth with rentals. How would you lease a 2 unit property with shared utilities? What to add to the lease? And how do you advertise the 2 units to potential tenants? I will also have more questions for this members only session when it comes out, which right now it's 50-50, Saturday or Friday. I haven't seen it collect a clear Saturday or Friday. Maybe we do two, just for practice, because that's the whole point of them. How would you lease the 2 units? Separate units in the leases, what they're responsible for, what I'm responsible for. Be clear, understand, and this is the thing that gets me. People will rent anything. It doesn't have to make sense to you. It has to make sense to the tenant. List the units during the conversation of showing the place. It's, hey, here's where your parking is. This is where their parking is. Here's the area of responsibility for yard maintenance that's yours. This is what's theirs. When it comes to utilities, I prefer to meter out whenever possible and put utilities in tenants' names. Not always possible. Make sure that the rent includes enough to cover utilities when they spike. You can, in some areas, I do flat rate fee for things like water that I can't put in tenants' names because those municipalities require that it be in the owner's name. So I do a flat rate that's a little bit above what that normally costs so that in the summer when it does spike, it balances out the rest of the year. In some areas, that's not legal. You're not allowed to charge a penny more than the actual utility. So you can back bill. But if you have 2 different units, you're going to cause arguments between tenants. If one says they have their AC on all the time, we never have ours. We put in LED bulbs. We don't ever, uh, we take short showers, whatever. You're going to have this argument. I don't want to be involved in any of that. So whenever you can, separate meters. Whenever you can't, don't have the tenants paying utilities that the other tenants' habits are impacting. You'd rather have it frustrate you than have turnover from tenants. It's not optimum, but it's possible. A lot of people do it. Astrad bought my first property last year and currently saving for the next one, wondering if there is a smart place to park my money in the meantime with a good return other than a high yield savings account. So I'm not a fan of stocks. I'm not a fan of crypto, even though Bitcoin has been the highest performing asset of the last decade. I get it. It's just not my thing. Uh, I believe in the region beta paradox. You're more likely to do something with the right motivation. The idea if a store was 1 block away or 1 mile away, you're going to walk a block or you're going to jump in a car and drive if you had to go to the one that was a mile away. Probably going to drive a mile away, even though it's farther, because walking across the block is more effort than driving the car. So with the region beta paradox, I never even put my money in a high yield saving account. I didn't want it making money. I wanted the little caveman brain in the back of my head to be scratching the cave wall going, you've got money in the bank losing out value to inflation. You got to find a rental. You got to take the money from the bank and put it in the rental and put it to work. Motivation. Logically, I would probably have a high yield saving account. I'd probably open up a Robinhood account. Like there's a link down below if you want free stocks, which it's not going to be much. It's going to be like $5, but you can open up a Robinhood account. Don't buy stocks, just transfer money into it and you pay their $5 a month or whatever it is to be a gold member. And you get 60 days at 4.75% interest. And then it's like 4% interest after that. So you can have 4% interest in a Robinhood account. So make some money off it. You can go to Wells Fargo. They've got 3 point something rate right now. Bank of America is stupid. It's 0.02. Try not to have any money there. Uh, Maybe your local credit union or somebody else will have a better, high yield saving account, but I'm not the put it in stock or put it in crypto and hope it's there in 6 months when I find a deal, because who knows when the correction or the vertical pong game is going to, what level you're going to be at when you need the money. So I don't even like high yield saving account. If you have to make money off of it, which is probably the smarter thing to do, I would do something like that. Valdez Fears, howdy. How to structure and buy a rental from my parents that's on a home equity line of credit that my brother set up with smallest down payment possible. So if there's a HELOC on it, in order to sell, most lenders are going to require that the HELOC be paid off. So your down payment would have to cover the HELOC. So that eliminates your caveat of smallest down payment possible. Could you could do some research and see if you can do a subject to on a home equity line of credit? I have no idea. I'm not a subject to guy. It's not the strategy that I've used. It's possible. While your parents are willing to help you out, are they willing to walk away from equity? Because if they're not, then you're going to be carrying a second note for what's owed there to give them their piece of the pie. How to structure and buy a rental from my parents. Use an attorney. One of the problems you can run into, because right now, it sounds like everyone's getting along. But in 3 years, something can happen, something can change, and you're not getting along. That is not the time to put anything in writing. Right now, during the purchase of this, go to a real estate attorney, make sure that it passes the equitable test. So the legalese term. You can sign a contract with somebody. They could take that contract to a court and they could tell the judge, I didn't really understand what I was signing and it doesn't seem fair. And if the judge doesn't think the contract that you both signed and had notarized is fair and equitable, contract can be voided. Contract law is very tricky. So have an attorney put it together because they'll know the threshold of it can be a little imbalanced, but it can't be unfair because unfair can be tossed out in court. So don't try to do it yourself. I would have a pro look at it. That's probably going to cost several $100s to do that, but they might have the best suggestion and they're going to know the local laws, right? Real estate's local. You're going to be in a county, a municipality, a state that's completely different than where I invest. Probably a lot smarter because I live in Washington where there is no R, but there's a lot of liberals. So we get some silly laws that make me stupid rich. So much as I complain, thanks. Wealth with rentals. Have you done Rerouting or electric wires to add a new meter for an additional unit. How much would that cost if you heard of it? So I've done rerouting of wires. I reroute wire for a hot tub here. Uh, get several estimates. It's the same thing. Go to Thumbtack, find an electrician, find a handyman that's a licensed electrician, figure out how the permit process in your area works in Washington State, where there is no R. It goes through labor and industry, so it's a permit process that was so much easier than, not to name them, Port Orchard, Washington, who suck with the permit process. But the labor and industries thing, permit was done, inspection was good. So find out how that works in your area. And again, just like the roof, a few quotes will tell you what is normal for your area, what is reasonable, and then you'll decide, is it worth doing? And that's so I've had 3 roofs done by that Clearview Exteriors, had a great experience, right? I was the estimator, one of my jobs, because I was the youngest of 13, with my family having a bunch of tree services. I would go around and do estimates. And so you had to figure out how many man hours is this going to take? What equipment is this job going to take? What's the travel time to get here? And how many people are actually going to be used on this site to equate how do we make profit, right? But as an estimator, when you get a quote from an electrician, a quote from a plumber, a tree surgeon, a roofer, you don't find one and stick with them. So Frank, running his business, has clients that have been using him for years. They should get several quotes. Frank probably tells them, like I did, you should get 3 or 4 quotes on this. Keep us honest, know what you're doing, right? Because here's how it works as an estimator. Let's say we had 2 months worth of work lined up, 2 months worth of jobs, and somebody had a job they wanted done in a week just because they have a wedding come up. So I either have to work a bunch of overtime with my crews, or I got to displace another tenant, another customer, not tenant, to get the job done. That means the price went up. Now, what if I currently don't have any work lined up for next week and we like food? My price is going to come down to what we call get the job rate. So even if you find a good contractor, always shop at least 3 rates, because if they're completely booked with a bunch of jobs, their price will just naturally go up. There was a guy that runs an insulation company that my nonprofit worked with to help him find staff his company. And he was telling me about this letter that they were submitting to all of their clients. They were submitting to all of their clients a letter saying, our prices are increasing by 20% because of our workload. It wasn't because cost of materials went up or because this time of year is harder. It was our workload is so much we have to increase our price, because that would make some people shop around for a better rate to reduce their workload. They're usually not going to tell you that, but that is what's going on behind the lines. Are they trying to increase their work or decrease their work? Because that will also impact the price on on a contractor you've been working with already. Freedom Works. My steak showed up tonight with sweet potato fries. Sweet potato fries are such a wonderful treat. I don't know if they go well with whiskey, though, which is not what I'm drinking. Cabragoon, Cabulus. Howdy, watching and learning. Awesome. Freedom Works. More whiskey. Vanguard high yield saving account is to die for. About 4% interest rate. Have had it for years. It's great. There you go. Flavio, great value of info. Why pay 10,000 of membership here only costs you one thumbs up. Every time you hit the like button, an angel gets its wings. Howdy Dion in chat. Thank you. So I'll probably be releasing the intro to this video. If you missed it, I think I'll just release it when I'm done. I'll just put it out as a short video. Don't tend to do that because if I put a video out and it doesn't get a lot of views in the first hour, then YouTube kind of pulls it back and doesn't show it to a lot of people. But I liked the beginning of this video. I liked going, here's what AI said I got wrong and what I thought about it and what AI thinks of reventure consulting based on my prompt. Y'all have a weekend full of amazing. I will see you in a video on Thursday. I believe Thursday, because there's some new people to my channel. I'm going to do 10 years in 10 minutes. So my goal is to explain the decade it took to go from $89,000 in bad debt to financial freedom. That was 10 years, and do it in 10 minutes. I couldn't even do the intro to this video today in 10 minutes, but let's see how we do. See you Thursday.